Hello viewers, this is a video I've been wanting to do for quite a while. One reason is I get to play with three great laptops. Another reason is I get to answer a question I get asked quite frequently. And that question is, what computer should I buy? On my video I've done a lot of reviews of mostly newer machines with the Core i7 4th gen processors, and then so a lot of people see those, and a lot of those laptops are really out of the price range of a lot of people, but they see those videos and they see the machines and they really want to be able to purchase a machine of that caliber. And I was lucky enough. This is my ZBook 14, and it was the top model at the time that I was able to purchase it. And between its base price, some of the accessories I've purchased for it, the upgraded SSD hard drive in it, or I shouldn't say hard drive because it's not hard drive, the SSD drive in it. This laptop is well over $3,000 in value, which is a lot of money. And fortunately, it's not money that I had to spend. This is my work computer. Work provided this for me, which means it was their money. It was actually kind of funny. They asked me what I wanted in a machine when it was time to upgrade, because I actually had a machine that they were going to give to a developer, and so they're like, well, we're taking your machine away, what's a machine you would want to replace it? And so I'm like, well, I want this machine that's about as awesome as they get, and thinking that they would approve a budget that was maybe 10 to 20% less than what I was requesting. And lo and behold, they requested my full budget, so I was able to buy exactly what I wanted, which was the ZBook 14. I was able to include some accessories, like my external battery, this comes with a 3-cell battery. This is another 6 cells, so 9 cells worth of battery life, and that is over 12 hours of life if I'm keeping things on the minimum. But obviously not everybody can spend $3,000+ on a laptop. I myself cannot spend $3,000+ on a laptop. So if you needed a good solid machine that offered good performance and you didn't have $3,000, you didn't have $1,000, say you had $500-600 and you wanted to spend that on a system, well, one of the options that's out there, and that's where these two guys come in, is a lot of businesses will either rent or lease laptops, or at the end of a contract, they will return the laptops to a manufacturer or a third-party vendor. And most of those laptops, they've been sitting on somebody's desk for 2 to 3 years, getting very light use, and so they get refurbished by the manufacturer and resold. Lenovo is a company that does that, and Dell is a company that does that. HP does that as well. I don't happen to have a refurbished HP available, so I'm just going to address the two that I do have access to. And what I've done is I've brought up just the specs of the machines. I've done a quick bench test here with 3D Mark. I did the same bench test on all three, which is the work test. They have several different tests: a creative, a home, a work, and a performance. And with the free test, I decided to do the work one since all three could run it. Only the ZBook 14 would run the performance, even though technically this video card and that video card should be compatible with it. It wouldn't let me run it on these two, and I'm not sure why. Didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to troubleshoot that, but because I want to be able to get this video out. And here are their scores. The ZBook 14 got a 3143. Now coming up here, you can see the Windows performance metrics here, and 7.9 is the highest that it goes. And you can see my primary hard disk. I have an SSD in this machine, and I don't know how much of this score is based off of that SSD. Having a 1 terabyte SSD is a very nice feature. I've been very spoiled with that. I run a lot of VMs, so that's kind of important for my job. I was able to justify it that way. It's like I said, it's got a, sorry for the glare, it's got a 4th generation Core i7. This is a 2-core CPU with hyper-threading, so 4 core on the processor. I do have 16 gigs of RAM. That's the most you can have in this machine, and running Windows 7 64-bit. The video card that this has, sorry for the shaky camera, and of course you don't want to focus, is a AMD FirePro M4100. I really like this video card. It seems to be very powerful. It doesn't heat up even when it's pushed pretty hard. I shouldn't say it doesn't heat. It does heat up, but it doesn't get too hot like some other machines that I've tested in the past. I've been able to run this 100% full out without any heat issues at all. And I'll be doing that here in a little bit to show you. So now again, this is a $3,000 laptop. That's what you get when you spend a lot of money. Now obviously they've come out with the 2nd gens with the 5th generation core processors, and you can get this, I think it's still a dual core Core i7, but it has the much faster Intel video card. It's faster CPU, so the video performance would be a little bit higher. I haven't had a chance to test one of those. I've tried to get my hands on one. So this is a generation old system, but as of a year ago it was top of the line. And now if we come down and say you need a good performance system and you have maybe $600 to spend, this is a Lenovo T520. And I did some research on this, and these are available online from anywhere from about $350 to about $500, refurbished with a 30-day warranty. I'll bring the screen back. This one in particular has a 2nd generation Core i5. It has 12 gigs of RAM. It has, unlike the ZBook where everything's accessible from a plate that slides off. If you haven't seen that, I have a few videos up of my ZBook, but I can put up another one if somebody wants to see that. With the Lenovo, one stick of memory is under the keyboard, so you have to pull the keyboard off to access one, and then there's one available through an access panel on the back of the machine. And I just opened the back and replaced that one. I didn't touch the one under the keyboard, so it's got 4 gigs under the keyboard and an 8 gig stick through the access panel in the back. It just has the original, it's not even 500, I think it's like a 320 gig hard drive in it. It's the original that came with the machine. It's been in production for 4 years or so, so it's definitely gotten a lot of use. All I've done recently to it is reformat the drive, and I got the 3D Mark score of 2665. So if you look at the difference between the two, 3100 and 2600, that's a difference of less than 500 points. So again, this computer costs less than a third of the HP, as much as almost a tenth of the cost. You can buy almost 10 of these for the price of the HP. If some of them were as cheap as $300 for a non-refurbished one, just a used one. It does have a dedicated video card, which is important. It has a NVIDIA NVS 4200M. And again, this is a 4-year-old laptop, so wouldn't want to expect to run, what's a good example? Like the new Tomb Raider game would not, you wouldn't be able to play it on this with full, That's what I'm looking for. And with full graphics on it, it's not a gaming machine. It's really a business-oriented machine. But there are some business softwares that require 3D acceleration or at least better graphics. You can run multiple monitors, which is a big one for me. Is this can run 3 monitors at the same time, which a lot of laptops cannot. They can maybe run 2, but if you do a lot of things at the same time, you definitely having the ability to have multiple monitors is a big benefit. And then coming down a little bit further down the list, this is a Dell Latitude E6410, and this one I've done I think one video before on. This, I believe it has 8 gigs, and I believe that is the maximum with a first generation Core i5 processor. It's a dual core. I don't believe it has hyper-threading. This one I believe is dual core as well, and it does have hyper-threading, so it comes up as a 4 cores. And I take that back. This does have hyper-threading. So again, it also has 4 logical cores on it. It also again has a dedicated video card, NVIDIA NVS 3100M. This one is an even older machine. Its 3D mark, I think I forgot to show that here, was 2439. So this is a little bit more than 200 less than the Lenovo. And these can be had refurbished anywhere from $250 to about $350, $400 if you get some of the ones that have a little bit higher specs on them. And again, really depending on your budget and what you're like to do with it, you're not going to be doing the top end gaming. Even on my ZBook 14 here that has much faster processor, much faster dedicated video card, it is still not a quote-unquote gaming machine. You have the laptops like the MSI Corsair line, I believe. You have the Razer, I want to say Razer Blade, the Razer Blade 14. Those are dedicated video machines or gaming machines. They have much faster video cards on them, but they're not really geared towards the professional. Like my ZBook 17, or excuse me, my ZBook 14 also has a 17, but my ZBook 14 has a 3-year warranty. Bumper to bumper, it covers everything. It's a lot more easily upgradable, a lot more easily accessible, and just has a better presence in the workplace than something like a Razer Blade would have. But if you don't have $1,000, $1,500 to spend on an upper end machine, you could easily spend, like this one. If you shopped it around a bit and you got one for about $400 and you had $600 to spend, you could pick up maybe an SSD. And this has, if you take the CD-ROM drive, you can get replacements. I mean, I haven't had a CD-ROM on my system in years, so you can replace the CD-ROM drive with a secondary hard drive bay, and it's not very much money. It's like $20-$30 for the adapter, and then you put your SSD in the main hard drive's place and take the main hard drive that's in it and have it be like more of your storage drive. And I think the performance of this machine would increase significantly if you were to spend that little extra money and buy that SSD as your main drive and put it in there. Same thing goes for the Dell. I think both of these, if you come into the Windows rating systems, yeah, the video performance is hit a bit, but I think for most people the real performance hit is with that primary drive, and secondary RAM. If you have a machine that's only running 2 to 4 gigs of RAM, if you bump that up to closer to 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, for most people, your performance will increase significantly. And then if you go out and upgrade the hard drive, from a spindle to an SSD. That again, more than upgrading processor, will have a huge impact on most people's day-to-day usability of their systems. You know, there's nothing that compares to an SSD in terms of performance upgrade, especially on a price per dollar. And then you can't upgrade a laptop's video card or processor too easily, so that's a place on a laptop where if you have an older system like this Dell Latitude E6410, that you can, you know, give it a boost, a shot in the arm of you know, a little power. So, you know, people ask me a lot again, you know, what computer should I buy, what system do I need, and you really have to sit down and say, you know, what truthfully am I going to be doing with this, and what are my expectations? Because if you expect to sit down and play the latest and greatest top shelf video games on any of these business class laptops, you're not going to be very happy. That's not what they're designed for. You know, you're not going to buy a Ferrari and take it to the Baja 1000. It wasn't ever meant to do that. You know, you're not going to have a good time. You're not going to have a good experience. But if you take a Ferrari to Laguna Seca, you probably will have a great time, because that's more what it's meant for. And if you take a top trophy truck to Laguna Seca, you probably aren't going to have as much fun as you are driving that through the Baja. So, you know, buy the right tools for the right situation. And I think for the price, you know, you got $600 burning a hole in your pocket, and you need a good machine. You know, one thing that this Lenovo has is a great looking screen. I did a video a little while ago of a Lenovo E540, which has a higher end Core i4 processor, a 4-core Core i7, so 8-core, hyper-threaded, and it was a fast processor. It was smoking, but the screen on it was of such poor quality that it was really only useful if you plugged it into an external display. And if you're going to be doing that, well, what's the purpose really of having a laptop? The purpose of a laptop, at least for me, is to be able to be mobile and use it as a contained unit. Now, I know some people are going to wonder about the gaming prowess of these machines. So I've just thrown up Furmark. I've used this before in previous tests. I've just running it straight out of the box, haven't done anything to adjust for the screen resolution or anything like that, just so that they're all on the same scale. And then 1280 by 720, not full screen. I'm just going to do it on all three of these machines, so bear with me a second here. And obviously I've put these in order, so the one on the far right, which would be the ZBook, that one's going to have much better performance than the one on the far left, which is the Dell. The Dell is a significantly older machine with older hardware, and the Lenovo will fit right in the middle. Now, one thing with the HP, I don't know why, but it doesn't show the temperature of the GPU, which it does on both the Dell and the Lenovo. So I'm not quite sure. Now, one thing the HP does do, I'll get you close to the exhaust fan. I don't know how well that my camera's picking that up, but it does get, apologize for the dusty machine. I did dust it before I started recording. My house is dusty. But you actually can hear the fan noise. It's not loud at all. It's not even sort of loud. The case is metal, and so along here the exhaust vents right there. So that will warm up right here on this outside edge, just a little bit, because this is metal, it's not plastic, and so it does act a little bit like a radiator, picks up and disperses some of that heat. Yeah, you can hear that fan kicking up just a little bit there. come up to the performance so far. It is averaging about 11 frames per second. You see this is really pushing. I play a few games on this, older games, Minecraft, which isn't really an older game, but it isn't as GPU intensive as some other games. You know, I also play Half-Life 2. I've played on here as a test, as well as Portal 2, which were, at the time they came out, were pretty processor intensive, or I should graphics intensive games for the time. Of course, they're pretty old games now at this point, and they played just fine. Guild Wars 2 was very playable on this at high settings. I'm not much of a gamer anymore, so I don't have time for it. So I don't have any more recent releases to test on these. But again, average still at about 11 seconds. If I go over to the Lenovo, now one thing the Lenovo has for it is very quiet compared to the Dell and the HP. The exhaust vents again are here on this side, and I probably can't even hear its sound over the sound of the other two. It's very quiet. Now I haven't played any games on this machine at all. I just have it for testing, and the average frames per second with for a Mark are average of 5, which is not very good. As you can see, it's quite choppy. But if you're playing older games on it more casually, or if you're willing to turn your settings down pretty low, I think that most games would be fairly playable on this machine. Temperature, I noticed when I did this test before, and I'm sorry for the glare, I'm not quite sure what's picking that up, but it bumped up to about 78-ish degrees, and then the fan kind of kicked into, I guess, an overdrive, and it cooled it back down to about 75, and it stayed there for a good 30 minutes with this running. I don't know if it'll stay at 77. It looks like it's been at 77 for quite a while, but that's what it did before. I come over to the Dell. Now the Dell, again, its vent is here on the side. It's also louder than the Lenovo, but none of these machines are especially loud. I've had significantly louder laptops. I have an older HP, just a 17-inch cheap laptop, and when you're pushing it, it gets quite loud. And on this one, average frames per second even lower. Push in an average of 3 frames per second. You could tell the difference between the Dell and the HP. Obviously, there's no contest, as far as performance wise. But again, this computer is at least 5, maybe 6 years newer than this computer. So that's not a big surprise at all. The one thing with the Dell is it definitely gets a lot hotter. It's almost 15 degrees, let me focus, actually closer to 20 degrees hotter than the Lenovo, and the fan is louder. And you can definitely feel it. If you were to rest this on your lap, it gets significantly hotter in any sort of use than any of the other two. So if you're doing gaming, if you're just typing a letter in Word, this laptop definitely gets hotter and stays hotter through all use of the machine. This laptop, the Lenovo, hardly gets warm, really, even when being pushed this hard. I have my hand under it, and I don't even really find a warm spot. I mean, it's warm, but it's not like, ooh, that's hot, or that's uncomfortable. It's just like, oh yeah, obviously it's a computer. It gets a little warm under there, but it's not uncomfortable at all. The ZBook, for the most part, stays pretty cool. unless I'm running, if I'm running 7 or 8 VMs, which I've had to do in the past, it will definitely start to cook. It will get toasty. It never gets super loud, but it definitely moves a lot of warm air through it. Never really gets to the point where it makes it uncomfortable, but I've really pushed it, and it definitely does get warm. So if you're somebody who sits a lot, doing a lot of processing with the laptop in your lap, that's definitely something to consider. Obviously, I only have 3 options here out of hundreds of laptops that are available, but definitely something to consider. So I know I've talked about a lot of things. Some you may care about, some you may not. I'm going to turn these off before my eyes start to hurt. But if you're out there looking for a new laptop, I wouldn't necessarily jump out and buy the latest and greatest. It may or may not be what you need. You may just need a very strong, generation or 2 old business laptop, something that's been refurbished, something in great shape, something that has warranty of a month or 2 on it. That will give you a lot of time and a lot of use out of it, especially if you're going to school and casual gaming and you just need something that works, will last a long time. Something like this Lenovo is definitely a good choice. One thing also with these older laptops, especially the Lenovo's, is their keyboards are some of the best. If you pick out any of the T or W series, they're the same platform basically. This looks exactly like, if this didn't say T520, I would have sworn this was a W540, or excuse me, a W520. And the keyboard is just, it's excellent. It's really a pleasure to type on. The ZBook, for a chiclet keyboard, it's pretty good. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's decent. Older Dell also is quite good. This one's quite well worn, and so the keys are very slick, and so I'm not a fan of that, simply because somebody else has used this keyboard and has worn the keys smooth. And the other 2 still have a little bit of texture left on their keys from use. But if you have any questions about these machines or any other computers I've done a test on, or anything else you would like to see a test on, feel free to leave a comment below. I do ask, if you buy anything on Amazon, I have my partner link in the description below. Just when you go to purchase anything, just use my partner link, and a small percentage of that does come back to support this channel and these reviews that I do here. These laptops came through that partner link for me, and so it makes it possible for me to put out these reviews. And I appreciate any and all help. If you have any questions, feel free to ask below. Thank you.